Alright, so today I want to make a video updating everyone on new cases as usual, as well as getting to some other big stories. Now there is a few pretty important things I want to talk about, so let's get right into it here. Canada's up to 55,669 cases, 3,448 dead. Alberta had 97 new cases yesterday. We're up to 5,670 confirmed cases with 94 dead. 2,534 recovered, 157,517 tests. So we continue to test about 5,000 people a day, and we are trending down. And we are trending down. I just seen today 1,500 of our cases are from the one meat plant. About 30 of our, at least 30 of our dead are from the one nursing home in Calgary. So the point I'm trying to get at here is keeping everything closed down at this point literally makes no sense. And not only that, we have 2,500 recovered cases. We actually only have about 3,000 active cases. So, like I keep reiterating, but people still seem to be, lulled into this false sense of security that, oh, we'll be able to just turn everything right back on after things get, this ends, if it ever does, and things will be just fine, and that's not going to happen. Now people just don't seem to understand. You have the "we need to keep everything locked down or everybody's going to die" crowd doesn't understand why people want to reopen. I mean, the reason why people want to reopen is that they understand the basic cost benefit. And the problem with this nowadays is that because the public schools are so terrible, they're largely run by women who are more emotional, rather than, factual, reason and evidence. Let's look at things from a rational point of view, not, we need to keep everything closed down or we're all going to die. Like I say, it's largely a women, idea. And like I say, I understand that it is not everyone's like that. So again, anyone who points that out just goes to show just how dumb you are. But, you know, the main point being is that it's a simple cost benefit analysis. You know, we still haven't even had 100 people die of this yet. We have experts saying that regardless, and I'm going to show you those experts, regardless of whether or not we open, the case totals are going to stay relatively flat. We have experts saying the second wave, isn't going to be nearly as bad as what a lot of people predict. I have an expert who's going to show you that too. So the whole point being is that there's absolutely no reason to keep things locked down at this point. The death rate is much, much lower. I've seen, at least 10 times less, lower than what we originally thought. Now, again, this is the thing that I like to point out to people who still think that things should be closed. If I would have told you right when we closed, the actual death rate is more than 10 times lower than we think it is, would you have supported closing? No. Like, no one in the right mind supports, or no one, like I say, no one with good, a shred of critical thinking skills supports quarantining healthy people for something that has less than a 1 in 1,000, less than a 0.1% chance of killing them. Nobody supports that. That's terribly unscientific. Like, I can't stand these leftists who try and lecture you on climate change, and then, because it's science, but then turn around and support the completely unscientific idea of quarantining people who have less than a 1 in 1,000% chance of dying from this. And like I say, my prediction is by the end of this, we're probably looking at 1 in 10,000 because the numbers keep getting adjusted down. The CDC in the States just lowered their cases by 20,000. Yeah, you heard that right. They just lowered it by 20,000 cases. So the death rate is much lower than we think it is. Now, the only thing that could throw a wrench in that is China lied about their numbers. Their numbers are probably a lot worse than they're telling, but I don't even know if China's numbers are included in the world average. So, but honestly, at this point, who really cares about China? Like, I really don't care about China. They're gonna lie no matter what. So basically, the point being is that there's no reason to keep things locked down anymore. The evidence overwhelmingly points towards we shouldn't even have locked down in the first place. You know, and it's even crazier to say we should keep things locked down. But anyway, let's talk about some other stuff. This is from the Babylon Bee. They say scientists who didn't predict a single thing accurately for the last 2 months, confident they know what the weather is going to be like in 100 years. Now, again, this is just more evidence on top of the mountain of evidence we already have that climate change is not something we need to be worried about, because the people claiming that climate change is this massive issue can't even predict the case totals a week or two out. You're telling me they can predict the weather in 100 years? Like, come on, like, come on. And like I say, this is a parody outlet, but the reason why I cite it so much is that even though it's a parody outlet, a lot of it's so funny because it's kind of true in a way. So that's kind of the what I wanted to point out here. But again, this just goes to show more that in society we need to value questioning the narrative and questioning authority more. Like, one of the most valuable lessons we can take from this crisis is that we need to question authority and question the narrative. Because if we would have did that as a society, we wouldn't be in this mess. We wouldn't be in this mess because we would have questioned China. We would have found out that they're lying. We would have closed our borders. We would have taken this more seriously, and we wouldn't even have had to close down in the first place. We would have largely avoided the pandemic, and we would have largely avoided the economic crisis that we're going to be going into. But again, people are so emotional, so intellectually illiterate that they just go along with this kind of crap. Like I say, this is from Express UK, I believe. Yeah. Anyway, they have it's titled French Coronavirus Expert Rejects Second Wave Fears, Branding Warnings a Fantasy. And let's read a little bit about it here. Paul Rawalt said the second wave story is a fantasy that was invented from the Spanish flu, which started in the summers and has nothing to do with it. Usually an epidemic happens on one curve. I hate to make predictions, but this way of constructing is fairly common for epidemics. In the past, epidemics disappeared long before we had the means to contain them. They disappeared anyway. Humanity doesn't die from an epidemic. That's the way it is. Epidemics start, accelerate, peak, disappear, and we don't know exactly why. So I'm not going to read the whole article. You can go check it out more if you want. But like I say, for all the people saying, oh, if we close, there's going to be another wave and then we're all going to die. Well, no, that's not going to happen. And even if it does happen, we can't keep things closed down forever. Like, again, the people that support this kind of stuff are just economically, intellectually, completely illiterate. Completely illiterate. Like, trying to have a conversation with them is like it's like you're speaking another language. Like, it's in one ear and out the other. They just sit there all day, probably watching CBC and falling for their BS hook, line, and sinker. And like, not that you shouldn't watch CBC, just watch CBC knowing that they're literally paid not to give you an objective view of what's going on. So, that's something I want to point out too, is that one of the main arguments you get for keeping things closed, oh, there's going to be this terrible second wave. And although that I have said that in the past, I don't believe that that's the case anymore, because we have experts, predicting that it's not going to happen. I mean, there will be somewhat of a second wave, but not as bad as the first one. And even if there is a second wave, like I say, we can't keep things shut down forever too. And the reason why so many people want things to be kept shut down is that it's the left, it's the right who wants people to be, things to be reopened, because most of the businesses that are being hurt the most are the small to medium sized businesses. Like, the big businesses are going to get bailed out. A lot of them are still going, and they're largely run by leftists. The small to medium sized businesses are the ones, the working class, the middle class, largely right wing people that are being hurt the most, and the left knows this, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. Now, the other reason why they like it right now is that we have de facto socialism. We have borderline communism in a lot of ways. We have a de facto universal basic income. We have a de facto, government nationalizing industry. We have tons of socialist, um, aspects of society right now. So, um, anyway, this is from where is this from? Sky News. It's titled Coronavirus, No Child Known to Have Passed COVID-19 to Adults, Global Study Finds. Now, this is another thing that people have really been talking about that. Oh, if we open schools, all the kids are going to get it and they're going to pass it to their adults. But according to this, that's not the case. Um, I'm not going to read this whole article here, but again, you can search it up and read it if you really want. But again, this just goes to show that the whole, oh, we need to keep everything shut down or everyone's going to die narrative isn't the case. Like, it isn't the case. Um, yeah, so basically, we know that Quebec schools are reopening, I believe, in a week or two. Some other schools are going to reopen. I haven't heard what Alberta's plan is yet, but this idea that we need to keep everything closed, and the other thing too is that, you know, people can visit their, grandkids and whatnot. If you're an old person, then you can probably face them. Now, I would wait for more than one study, but this is a study from, where is it from? Um, Not a single case of a child under 10 transmitting the virus through contact carried out by, this was carried out by the World Health Organization. So if the World Health Organization is going to come out with something like this, then they don't have a reason to lie, at least not lie in this way. If anything, they would lie the opposite way. So again, that's something to take to. That, like I say, there's two main arguments that you have a lot of these, we need to keep things closed or everyone's going to die kind of people make. And two of them here I've pretty much refuted, and not that they were good arguments even to begin with, but these completely refute them. The last thing I wanted to talk about here is something that happened a few days ago, but I wanted to talk a little bit about it. And so basically, I mean, two things came out recently. Number one was the oil price drop. Number two was the Michael Moore documentary that I still want to make a video on, but I just haven't got to it yet. And this is something that really well, not really encourages me, somewhat encourages me of Jason Kenney. He's definitely done some things, namely Bill 10, that have really bothered me. Keeping everything still closed really bothers me. But if he can keep these crazy far left climate activists clamp down and figure out a way to reverse this Trudeau gun ban, that will get me back on board enough to at least tacitly support him. Like I say, when it comes to voting, I would say I'm a lesser of two evils voter to an extent. Now, I don't even believe in the concept of government in the first place, but I also understand that if you're going to if you want to elicit change in society, you have to do it step by step. You don't have a massive change overnight. At least not in the modern world. It's not going to happen. So if you're again, that's what the socialists do. That's what the gun control people do. They don't call for a gun ban overnight. They don't call for communism overnight. It's step by step by step, and 100 steps later, boom, you're all of a sudden you're communist. All of a sudden, all the guns are banned. That's how you. Again, that's the people who are upset at the way things are going in Canada under Trudeau need to do the same stuff too. You're not going to get everything all at once. You need to take it step by step by step. So again, I commend Kenney for calling these kind of people out, but on the other hand too, he needs to take even a stronger stance on a lot of these things too. Just calling these people out isn't enough. Now again, it's better than nothing, but again, you gotta fight like hell against these kind of people because people don't realize just how vicious and committed to their cause they are. And like I say, they have no ethics, they have no morals, they have nothing, and they know that the right does, and they use that against us. Again, rules for radicals. People like Hillary Clinton have said that they really like that book, or they praise the author. She praised the author basically. That the left uses this kind of stuff. It's accuse others of what you're guilty of. The left does that all the time. Um, Use people's morals and ethics against them. We don't have any. All this kind of stuff. So that's something I just wanted to point out here just to kind of close out the video. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got linked in the description. I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And last couple things, as always, check out my BitChute channel and check me out on Twitter. Again, just got Twitter, so follow me there as well.